Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Dusty Thunder podcast. We have a very special first-time guest with us today. This is your first time, right?
It is first time.
Yeah. This is Josh Schmutz. I just butchered your name. We say it like 100 different ways, though, because I called you Schmutz for years, and then I heard you start saying Schmutz. So what is the correct way?
It is
Schmutz?
Our family pronounces it Schmutz.
Schmutz.
And then
I'm going to have to relearn this whole name, man.
But I've been Schmutz, Schmutz, Schmidt, Schultz.
Schmidt.
Yeah, one of my old bosses, which you know, called me Jason for the longest time. I'm like, you can't even get my first name right. And it's
the first name is not the hard part, dude. That's not the hard part at all. I will retrain myself to say Schmutz. This is my good buddy, Josh Schmutz. That's really hard.
Right. It's right off the tongue.
It's like my mouth doesn't want to do it. It's like fighting against it. It's like, no. Josh and I have been buddies for years and years and years. We've done business together for a really long time. He runs the show over at Mid-America RV, which you see me wear a lot of hats from his establishment over yonder. But we've been friends since
almost 20 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's been almost 20 years because I started at Roper in 2004, and it was shortly after that I was introduced to you.
Wow. And back then, I was making some real high quality commercials.
I was in them.
I know, it's great. It's like the beginning. That was the beginning of the video production journey for me. And you got to be my guinea pig for learning.
Yeah. And I think the worst part was the fact that our dealership was right next to train tracks.
Train tracks.
And they're the kind of train tracks that are like on a low traffic road. So there's not even the traffic arms or anything that comes down. You just are in the middle of recording something and all of a sudden you hear, blah, blah. And we might have been trying to do the take for 20 minutes and I finally nail the line. And then a train goes off in the background.
Oh, and it's not even just when it's there either, because audio is the hardest part of video. And I learned that while filming stuff for you, because what you can hear with your naked ear is amplified. You can hear it even more so when you have a mic on it, because it's actually amplifying those noises. So you hear the train, 2 miles down the road, and you're like, oh shit, here it comes. Mm-hmm. All right, deliver that line quick. We can do this. And nope, we're screwed. Okay. Yeah. That was fun, but we had a hell of a good time. That was a fun era. You were at Subaru. And I wasn't a Subaru guy at the time. And I think, your knowledge and passion for that product helped me understand and really become a Subaru lover. And now I've had 2. Mm-hmm. You've had quite a few as well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they aren't built to pull fifth wheels and stuff. So
no, but we do have some small campers they can pull.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, we make sure we keep a little bit of everything in stock.
But now, Josh Schmutz, now he has this really badass pimped out truck that is like, it's the envy of all other trucks around.
Black Betty's pretty special.
She's sexy.
She'll pull everything.
She's a big girl. And she's
a big girl.
She's super sexy. Josh is really familiar with the content. If you've been on lives, you've probably seen him pop up and give me shit in one way or another, because he likes to do that during lives. And Tony. He loves to give Tony Stank lots of shit as well. And one of those ways is to call him Tony Stank. He gives him a really hard time there, but super familiar with the content and the type of stories that we do. So I'm excited to get your feedback. And Candy Thunder has picked out some stories that she thought would be good but interesting for us two guys to give some insight on, because it's some relationship stuff that you wouldn't typically say, oh, this is something that 2 guys should cover.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I heard the descriptive word spicy when she was talking about at least one of the stories. So,
well, normally left to our own devices, what you and I sit around and end up talking about is football and shooting ranges. Mm-hmm. It is not, relationship drama.
True.
However, we do spend a good amount of time kind of reviewing just the crazy stuff that's happening in our own lives.
Yes, especially dad stuff.
Yeah, dad stuff, and talking each other through that, and just being a sounding board for each other, because it's important for dads. I think that's something that a lot of dads miss out on and just internalize it, because it's like we're not supposed to talk about that stuff. We're just supposed to be tough and just rub some dirt on it and walk it off and don't be a all the classic stuff, but being a dad is hard.
And I feel like we probably do that with 98% of it.
That's true.
But there's that 2% that you just can't, never mind.
Yeah.
You have to find ways to deal with it, and deal with it with somebody that's not either the other parent or your spouse, because they're probably also going through it as well. And they need it outside, not just release from it, somebody else they can get another perspective on, because otherwise it's just the 2 of you dwelling on it constantly, and it's not effective.
That's a really good point. And I think a lot of married couples that up, because it's like, if you have something that's heavy and you need to talk it through with someone, the default for most couples is probably just to turn to their partner,
right,
to unload that on them. But particularly if you're going through the same thing, or if you're going through something different as your partner, but equally as heavy, it becomes a cycle of like shitting on each other.
Right.
And it just increases the ecosystem stress level. It's always just building and building and building.
Yeah.
And not having someone else that's external to be able to talk to, it becomes harmful at some point.
Yeah, because I think no matter how you try to frame those conversations, the fact that it's a negative conversation, it's going to bring you down. And now you're like, after days of it, maybe you're almost not looking forward to seeing that person because you're like, oh, what are they going to dump on me today? Because I've already been thinking about this all day and I just don't even want to talk about it. But I know we're going to have to. So I think it makes it tough. And you have to be able to have the conversations, but also be able to step away from them, kind of compartmentalize some of that with other people because you just can't keep hammering away at the same stuff. You know, we've dealt with some stuff this year that was just incredibly tough with one of our kids. And I told my wife at one point, I'm like, listen, love you dearly. And I'm glad we've processed through a lot of this, but like, you need to talk to your friends and I'm going to talk to my friends. And it truly helped. Like a lot.
Nice. It can't be the topic all the time.
Right.
You've got to be able to live and not dread going home because it's going to be more stressful shit.
Right. Exactly. Home should be your respite from what you deal with day to day. Running businesses like we do.
Right.
Dealing with customers and problems and all the other nonsense that we get to handle.
Not to say that you're not going to deal with family problems at home because you will no matter what, but it can't all be that.
Right.
And I think Candy Thunder she's gotten really good at reading whenever my stress level is like, I can't hear about another problem right now, especially if there isn't a solution attached to it. If you're just bringing me a problem, that's something that's going to sit in my head because I can't hear about a problem without trying to find a solution to it. I can't do it. So she's just bringing me a problem. It's not like a turnkey solution ready and she's just running the idea by me. Sometimes she'll just stop herself now and be like, you know what? It's not important. We'll talk about it later. Or it's like, it's fine. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the guy who she feels like she can't talk to, but at the same time, you can only handle so much before you just absolutely lose your shit. And sometimes I get there.
It's kind of like playing emotional Jenga. Like you're stacking all these things and you're pulling things out. And every time somebody touches that tower, it's like, am I just toppling the whole thing? Is it all going to come down?
Is this when my whole world falls apart?
And so it is good to have a partner that recognizes that and gives you the space and respects it, but still is not going to just totally dismiss it. I'm sure she waits till a more appropriate time to deal with those things.
That's a really good way to put it. Emotional Jenga. I feel like that needs to be a t-shirt now. And it's going to have like all the normal bullshit things that couples deal with on each one of those blocks. Yeah, that's going to be fun. So you've got someone with a different perspective than we've had on here before. And also somebody who I've known you and been closer with you longer than I've been close with Candy Thunder. So we have a lot of history and background with each other too. And I think we'll be able to see some interesting angles here. It's going to be fun.
Yes.
Whenever you watch the content and watch the lives, are you ever just completely surprised by the levels of assholery of some people? Or is it just kind of like that sounds about right?
No, there are some that it just blows my mind. And I was like, I know petty people, but I'm so thankful I don't know some of these petty people because it's so bad. And then the people that just are either deliberately doing things without regard for their partner, like some of the cheaters, like cheaters that are getting other people pregnant, and or the guy just recently that had like a totally separate second family somewhere else, like basically splitting a 50-50 life. Like, how do you sleep? I mean, so there's some stuff in there. Some of the revenge ones are so good.
Oh yeah.
That purse one is still one of my favorites.
Petty revenge is the bestest.
Oh my, it's so good, especially when it costs somebody a lot of money on something that is impossible or at least very, very hard to return.
Yeah. That's petty revenge is probably one of our favorite ones. Finding really good petty revenge stories is tough.
Yeah.
But when they come across, man, they're golden nuggets. I don't think we have any petty revenges today, unfortunately. I think we have some spicy, serious shit to offer our dadly insight on. Okay, so we're going to dive into our first story here. This one is, am I the astronaut for potentially getting my wife in trouble with her hospital? My 30 male, wife 28 female, just started her second year of medical residency. She likes to talk about her workday, and I understand it's important as a way for her to de-stress considering the workload that residents have. However, she tends to overshare medical details about her patients. For those who don't know, medical information is protected by a law called HIPAA, and it is pretty strict about how patient information needs to be protected and anonymized if sharing is needed. I've reminded my wife several times that she is telling me patient details that are in violation of HIPAA. She keeps brushing it off, first by by telling me that HIPAA doesn't apply between spouses. It absolutely does. And then by telling me that she trusts me and needs me to just listen to her. That's not the point. I repeatedly tried to explain to her why she needs to stop, but she hasn't. A few days ago, she told me about a patient she saw, and even without names, I figured out that it was the son of someone I knew, and they probably wouldn't want me to know that information. I again told my wife to stop, and again, she brushed me off. A couple days later, I was at a gathering where one of my wife's friends, who is also her fellow resident, was present. I pulled her aside and explained what was going on and asked her to talk with my wife about the seriousness of what she was doing. She said she would. Apparently, she didn't talk with my wife, but reported her to the hospital's ethics board, and now they want to meet with my wife. She is furious with me for reporting her and says she can't trust me anymore. I've told her I'm sorry this is happening, but I didn't ask her to be reported. I just wanted someone to explain to her that what she was doing was wrong because she wasn't listening when I did. She thinks I am a huge asshole. I think this is only an issue because she was essentially repeatedly breaking the law. Am I the asshole? Okay, so Candy Thunder has included the top comment here. It says, "You're the asshole. She didn't tell you who it was. You assumed." Candy Thunder made a note on here that says, "You know what happens when you assume." So what do you think here?
I'm going to say no, in the sense that I deal with this on a day-to-day basis with similar things. We're a dealership, so we deal with people's credit all the time and personal information all the time. Now, obviously, it's not medical information, but there are federal laws governing what information can be shared and who can be shared with and so on and so forth. I do not go home and tell my wife specific stories, even though we've got some good ones, about some of the stuff we're dealing with. And if we do, I do it in such a broad, general, anonymous way that there's no possible way she would know, with the exception of if I tell a story and then she sees some weird review on our Facebook page or on Google.
It is similar.
And it's a very similar story. Then she's like, "Oh, I know who that jerk is." So there's ways to go about this. I mean, it sounds like she needs to share this about her day. It's not necessarily venting. She sounds like someone that just likes to talk about what she experienced that day. And for her, she's going to have these unique cases and stories every day. Some may be awful, some may be wonderful, but maybe she did say who it was, so he was able to draw that, or maybe he did assume who it was, but I don't know. I'm going to say probably could have handled this better.
Yeah. The tough part, looking at both sides, it's like, you're right. She needs to be able to talk to her spouse about her day. It's not like she's working for the fucking CIA. You know what I mean? She wants to be able to talk about the cool shit that she's doing because it's a residency. Like, she's learning through this process, or maybe some of it was stressful, but I assume in a medical residency that you're coming across some crazy stuff and you want to be able to share that with your partner.
Right.
And HIPAA, the main purpose of HIPAA is to protect the individual. So as long as she is not directly identifying individuals throughout this, like, that's the part that needs to be hedged against here. But he didn't want her to share any information, period. Not even broad stroke, like anonymous kind of stuff, because she did that.
Right.
And he's like, "Well, then I just connected the dots because it was easy." Well, don't do that, obviously.
Right.
If your problem is the HIPAA side of things, then don't take steps to undo the bit that she did to protect the patient. That's
right.
Then you're the asshole there too. I think you have to assume in his shoes here that, you know, he explained to her why he thought she shouldn't do it. She at least adjusted how she was doing it by being anonymous with what she was telling, but then he still had a problem with it. It's like she tried to compromise, it seems, by making more anonymous comments.
Right.
And he didn't budge at all. In fact, he stepped up his rebuttal by pulling a friend aside. And when you pull the friend aside, you put her in a precarious position too, right?
Absolutely, because she's obligated to report that at that point.
Right.
If this whole thing centers around his concern for HIPAA violations, that has to be the next step for the friend that he told that to.
Right.
Like, she has to report it.
What's worse is it, you know, her coming home and giving anonymous details about what happened during her day, or him sharing private information that was exchanged during their conversation between a married couple.
Right.
Like,
I mean, I would lean over to more of a violation by sharing private conversation that's shared between a married couple.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff that my wife and I talk about that we both just automatically know that's not going anywhere else. Like,
what's one of them?
We're not talking about it.
It was a test.
I told you we were doing this sober, so you're not going to hear any of those stories.
It was a test. Passed with flying colors here. So Candy Thunder, I think is you know, agreeing with the top commenter here and saying you're the asshole to OP. I have to agree. And maybe this isn't everyone sucks here, but she made adjustments.
Yeah.
And he did not.
Yeah.
And that, to me, just completely tips the scale over to his side, and he's definitely the asshole. Let me pull up the scale real quick. We got to do it. I mean, I ought to know it by heart now, right? But
I'm surprised you don't have it tattooed on the inside of your forearm.
That's not a bad idea. I don't want to be like The Rock though, and have to give myself notes. Okay, so 4 is you could have done it differently. 3 is you should have done it differently. 2 is you definitely shouldn't have done that. That text is really hard to read. Got to change that. And 1 is you're a terrible human. It doesn't seem like he was coming from a place of malice.
Right. To me, he's a 3. Like
a 3, you should have done this differently.
Yeah, he needed to handle it differently. Like it's not even a could have handled it differently. He definitely should have handled it differently.
So he should have handled the whole scenario differently. But when it comes to pulling her coworker aside and putting her in a position where she had to report it because she's bound by ethics as well, that was an ASCON 2 move because he definitely shouldn't have done that. And at that point, it's like he's getting all pissy about her violating HIPAA, but he completely violates her trust and privacy.
Well, not only that, I feel like he's doubling down on the problem because when he shared that information, the friend is going to have to report it. If he's so versed in HIPAA, he should know that. Right. So he can't be like, whoops, I didn't know she was going to report it. Like, you're either an idiot or an asshole.
Or both. This kind of seems like it might be an idiot asshole thing. It might be one of those know-it-all idiot asshole things. Mm-hmm. We might have the trifecta here.
Yeah.
The know-it-all idiot asshole. He wins some kind of award. That, I think we're there. It's, 3 overall, 2 for the specific instance of pulling the coworker aside because that was a bonehead move. And I would be surprised if this wasn't like a severe trust breaker in your relationship overall. Was it wife? Are they married? Yes. Wife. Ugh. Bro.
Yeah, just be a better listener, dude.
Bro. You think this is all coming from him being actually concerned, or is this just him not wanting to hear about it?
He doesn't want to hear it. I 100% feel like he just doesn't want to hear about it.
And was willing to go to any length to make it stop.
Yeah, and it's hard to, with the information we have here, it's hard to say what the intent is.
Right.
Like, is he envious of her career? Or,
could be.
Is he just completely mentally exhausted at the end of the day and just doesn't feel like he has room in his head for this? I don't know, but definitely something he needed to handle differently because he full on doubled down on it.
He's like, "Hi, honey, I'd ask you how your day went, but I really don't want to hear about it." So, HIPAA. It's too bad that HIPAA's there. I can't hear about your day at all. I'm going to go to the garage and crack a beer. I'll see you in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Poor gal. She just wants to talk to her husband about the shit that she's going through in her residency, which I'm sure is so stressful that you have to talk about it, either in a venting way or in a look at this cool thing or hear about this cool thing. And
right.
He's just like, nah, you know what? I'm going to get you in trouble with ethics.
Get you fired.
Yeah. Dude, you realize that when she's a doctor, she's going to make a lot of money, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe if our healthcare system doesn't fall apart by then. You're harming yourself here, man. Dumbass.
Could be a happy stay-at-home
could have been
choosing otherwise.
Is that what it's called? I hadn't heard that. Stay-at-home husband.
Ruined it. Totally ruined it.
That may not make the cut.
That's fine.
We're probably going to get censored on that.
It'll be on the B-roll.
But a lot of times, well, fortunately, Tony Spark and Candy Thunder, they don't do the edits. So there will be times whenever I'm filming with Candy Thunder and she's like, we have to take that out. We can't talk about farts in a podcast. And I'm like, why? And then us talking about how that needs to be taken out is in the final podcast. Yeah.
Were you guys talking about like Mastermind when they were trying to do a fart transplant?
No. Wait, there's a fart transplant thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
You have to watch that movie.
Yeah, I had no idea. But no, okay, so we got it. The discussion was, and you may be able to help me out here. I kind of hope not, but you may. The discussion was belches versus farts. Candy Thunder is more disgusted by belches than farts. However, just recently figured out how to make herself belch, by swallowing air. So like I showed her how to do it a long time ago, and it just now finally clicked, and she was able to figure it out. And I said, I wonder if there's a way to make yourself fart in a similar fashion.
Just the mental picture of the mechanics of that. No, no, thank you.
No, you don't think there's such a thing as an ass gasp?
I think the problem is you've spent so much time obsessing about assholes now because of this podcast that things like this just fascinate you, and they wouldn't even have crossed your mind 2 years ago.
You may be right. Speaking of, I saw a post yesterday or this morning, and it was a random thing I ran across, but I think it might have been on Instagram, but it was a gal talking about a guy asked ladies, he's like, just how exposed is your beehole when you go to the gynecologist? And some gal fired back and said, not at all. I always wear a butt plug when I go to the gynecologist, and it's a googly eye butt plug. So I always tell my gynecologist that I'm going to be keeping an eye on him. She said, gets them every time.
Well, yeah. I mean, how would you not laugh? I mean, you put googly eyes on anything. We put googly eyes on this microphone. We'd be chuckling about it the whole time we're recording.
Challenge accepted. I'm going to find some googly eyes that we can put on the microphone.
We could put googly eyes over our eyes.
And it would be hilarious.
Yes. I mean, yeah.
Challenge
like
accepted.
Sunglasses with googly eyes on.
I wonder. Yeah, there's a tattoo challenge.
I mean, has somebody ever made you mad and you like just went through their house and all their framed pictures have glass on them? You just googly eye all the family heads.
That's a good idea too.
That's genius. They hate it. They laugh. This is funny, and then they hate it as they're having to pick all of them off their family pictures.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this like tonight after the live tonight. But we can't say anything until so he doesn't know until the podcast comes out. But Tony Sparks' picture on the Stormcloud marketing site, and probably on the Dusty Thunder site if it's not on there already. I'm going to add like googly eyes too.
Perfect.
Make it a GIF so that it actually like moves a little bit, and then let's just see how long it takes.
I love it. Good old Tony Stank.
Yeah. Good old Tony Stank. Which, by the way, tangent before we dive into the second story, but we went to the Taylor Swift show over the weekend.
She didn't take me. Thank God.
I was the chauffeur. So I drove everybody up there, fought through the parking lot to get parked, got prime positioning for exit. Like we were at like a back of lot G and on the little...
On the grass.
So that we could pull into the road and just immediately get out of there. And it wasn't bad getting out of there. But what I didn't count on was like 100,000 people being there and there being no bandwidth on cell towers whatsoever.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. Arrowhead is a marvel in a lot of ways, but I don't care. I mean, even if it's game day, when they don't have people on the field, you're still 80,000 people.
Yeah,
all sharing the same cellular bandwidth.
It's like one tower. They're all siphoning from it.
These people trying to go on Facebook Live on their phones during the game.
Yeah,
like, it's your first game, huh? oh, you're new to Facebook. Yeah. That's it. Okay, got it.
Well, I was thinking whenever it's my fault because I insisted on being the chauffeur because originally Tony Spark wasn't going because Kieran, one of our daughters, changed her mind and decided she wanted to go.
One of our daughters.
No, one of our daughters. She decided she wanted to go. So we couldn't tell her no. And at that point, like plans got weird. And then I was going to be the chauffeur. Tony Spark wasn't going because we didn't have a ticket for him. And then Mike, who is Candy Thunder's ex-husband, his girlfriend, the two of them were going to the show. She ended up deciding she wanted to free up her ticket. So immediately Candy Thunder and I are both like, it needs to be Tony. I'm going to be driving no matter what. It's going to mean a lot more to him to go in and actually witness the show than it will to me. So Tony Spark got to go. At that moment, whenever he was going, I should have said, okay, he can drive back. because Candy Thunder isn't so good with the night driving. So I'm like, I have to be the chauffeur. But as soon as he was going, I should have been like, okay, I am now comfortable staying behind. But didn't. Stuck with the chauffeur gig. So I ended up being stuck in the car with no signal to entertain myself in any way whatsoever for like 6 hours. And it was, at least for a few hours, too hot to like have the windows down and not have the car on. Started getting mosquito bites in my car. It was random. It was just drunk Swifties just all over the place. It was a bit of a thing. I don't even remember where I was going with this story, but it was a thing.
So pro tip next time, treat it like a flight. Just take an iPad,
download things
have
to
some
it.
stuff already on it.
Yeah.
Binge a whole season of something for a Taylor Swift concert.
So I realized that after the fact, and I was like, well, the Tahoe's got Wi-Fi on it. Well, the Tahoe's Wi-Fi pulls from the same AT&T towers and everything else does. Yeah, so it was worthless. But the two things that I had actually downloaded to my phone were a marketing audiobook. So I listened to that for a while and made some notes. And then at some point I was like, I'm not going to work. Like, what am I doing? I'm not going to work right now. Right. I did create some good list of things that we already talked about in the team meeting today, though. But then the other thing that I had downloaded was the Thunder and Spark podcast. So it's like the only things that I had to entertain myself with were work
and
or
more work.
It was, I'm like, okay.
I think the work product part would be worse because that's like an artist listening to their own album.
They're
like, I know this one. I know this one too. I know this one.
If I do it, I'm doing it from like a quality control perspective. And I'm like, okay, is the audio quality okay? Is there anything messed up in here? But a lot of people hate hearing the sound of their own voices. And I do too. I'm just used to it. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice but to hear it.
True. Me neither tonight.
Yeah, sorry. And most of the time. So whenever we do, so Josh does a lot of RV shows and I voice a lot of the
everything.
Yeah, I voice a lot of the stuff for his videos and like audio loops. And for shows, it's we made like an hour-long loop or something, and we made it loop for like 9 hours or something. But half of that is probably
a good portion of it.
My voice,
and it's so good. I love it. It drives everybody else insane, and it's not because I love Dustin's voice. He has a very nice voice. It's because of how it's basically like guerrilla warfare when we're at the show.
Yeah,
because he made this nice audio loop where it's like they just took some stock songs, stuff you'd hear in an elevator or something like that, and then periodically put in these commercials, which are completely unhinged commercials because there's no FCC to regulate what we can say. It's just a recording that we put on an FM transmitter, and then we go into our competitor spaces and tune the radios in their campers to that station. And the FM transmitter is so powerful that like it will even block out a local channel, so we can tune it to a popular local channel that the other guys are going to be using anyway. And when they turn the radios on, or if somebody switches to that station, it's just playing our stuff. And it takes a day and a half before they realize
it's so awesome.
And then they realize they've just been getting beat in the ears all day long by our commercials. So,
and meanwhile, we're normally also geo-targeting the area with digital ads too. Yeah. So it's like pull up their phones and they see you and they turn the radio on in all the trailers and they hear you and they're like, what is happening?
We've done Snapchat filters in the past. We've done all kinds of really annoying things for the other dealers.
It's great. I think it's great. I mean, the tech capabilities that you have that most of them just don't even think about is killer.
No, that's all because of you.
Not all of it. The FM transmitter thing. That was your brilliant strategy. You're like, yeah, that's me. That's me. Okay. Story number 2 here is, am I the asshole for wanting a divorce because my husband lost our life savings? My 38 female husband, 38 male, and I have been married for 9 years, together for 12. My husband was a mortgage loan officer, and I have been a stay-at-home mom since having our kids, 8 female, 4 male. Mortgage lending was never the real plan, and what my husband really wanted to do was start a business. His degree was in supply chain management, so he always wanted to be a wholesaler. We ended up having a nest egg of around $70K as of 2 years ago, and my husband met 2 other men who he thought would be good business partners. They wanted to be in the beauty and electronics wholesale space. I was excited because as a former esthetician, I knew the supply chain for that too. Well, things started off promising enough. I got caught up with raising our kids, so never worked in a sales capacity. My husband was taking in a lower salary than what he was making at his other job, and he was working all the time, but I thought it would be worth it when the company makes it big and we'd be getting steady hands-off income. But I realize now my husband was keeping me in the dark about how bad the recession hit his business. And by extension, he was keeping me in the dark about what was going on with not just his money, but with my money as his wife, and the conflicts he had with his partner who had a mental breakdown after his divorce. To be put simply, they both started basically digging their heels in deeper, taking out loans and doing anything to keep what seemed like an abusive relationship with their vendors, cash advancing personal credit cards to make payroll. After hearing about that, which my husband told me, I was furious. He and his business partner had basically been pig-headedly pursuing their dreams and were about to be bankrupt, yet kept hurting their own finances to keep employees. My husband broke down and apologized for not being transparent about how bad things have been and told me the business would be bankrupt soon. I was devastated and realized he gambled our life savings and could have called it quits at any time, but decided to take on more debt. This was unforgivable and felt like financial infidelity. Is that a thing? Financial infidelity?
I mean, she says it is.
Despite my husband's protest, I have asked him to move out, and I've talked to a lawyer who advised me to get out now because he gambled our family's future and I deserve better. Oh, yeah. Shocking that the divorce attorney told you that. My husband is begging for another chance and wants me to give us 6 months while he finds another mortgage job. He promised to never start a business again, but I think I'm done and think it's better for me and him to just split while we still have time to rebuild and find love again. Am I the asshole? I feel very betrayed. Oof. Okay, so the initial question was, am I the asshole for wanting a divorce because my husband lost our life savings? Thoughts?
I mean, this one's an NTA for me in the sense that, I mean, in this particular question, I mean, she's very wanting a divorce. Now, going through with a divorce, that's a whole higher degree of this. We've both been through that. We understand.
Good point. Good point with her saying wanting, not divorcing.
Yes. I mean, going through with a divorce, that's a whole other thing. It's clear that he has not communicated at all, not just ineffectively at all with her about how the business is performing, whether it's struggling or thriving. And those type of things to me are always a couple issue, in the sense that me as a husband should be, inquisitive about what my wife's work life is like, not because it's my business, so to speak, but it's because I'm genuinely curious.
All right.
Like, for them, this is their family business. She's a stay-at-home mom. She's invested in this as he is. He's just working it. It's kind of similar to what my wife and I have. She manages a spa for a local casino resort. She has her own business. She has her own income. She has her own finances that she deals with, and I've got mine that I deal with. But I talk to her very regularly about how our store is doing, even though, she doesn't really have anything to do with the operations part of it.
Right.
It's our business. It's our future together.
Yeah.
And and I tell her the good and the bad. Like, this last winter was not the easiest, but, I kept her in the loop. So she understood, like, especially if I'm coming home stressed, she can kind of see, she can kind of understand, like, why it's that way and what she can be doing to help me work through that. On the flip side, she shares a lot with me as far as, like, how her spa's performing, things that they've implemented, how it's impacted her staff, and, changes that she's made or changes that her people suggest. Like, there's a lot of stuff I know about that spa with that. Like, I could just walk in and not run it by any means, but walk in there and not be blindsided by a ton of stuff.
Right.
She has the same with the dealership. Like, she understands it because we have those conversations. And so he really missed the mark by not only poorly communicating, just not communicating at all, it sounds like.
You know why he didn't, though? I mean, he knew it was wrong.
Sure.
He knew he was going to get his ass kicked for it if he'd told her, or if he had discussed it with her and gotten her on board, or tried to get her on board before he did it. He knows she would have said no.
Well, and he could have been ashamed too. He could have.
I'm sure he was.
He probably felt disappointed. He's letting his family down. He's the breadwinner. He's supposed to provide for them, provide a secure life for them. And he's obviously not doing that. And part of this too is always the danger of, jumping in with a business partner. You've been there. I've been there.
Yep.
We've got on the other side of it. So we don't, our partners are our spouses.
Yep.
But, it's one of those things where if you don't have complete control, you just really can't steer the boat. It's like you're always going to have some resistance. And even if you're trying to put things in a positive direction, sounds like this guy that he was working with had kind of a fall apart going through his divorce. And I've been there. It had a negative impact on the business, but you have to convey that to your spouse.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think part of what's cool about like your situation is that you guys are in very different businesses. And yes, business ownership, there's no way to disconnect it from your home life. There is no way. When you're a business owner, when you're running a business, like everything affects everything. Mm-hmm. It's, we've got a team, the team gets paid no matter what. But if the business doesn't do great, like owner doesn't get paid. That's what being the owner is about. It's not the glamorous lifestyle. It's about being the captain on the ship, whether it's taking hits or victorious. But with you guys being in two separate kind of things, I think it's really cool because you can probably listen to the issues that each other are facing and offer insight from what you've dealt with in a completely different world that can help with like team building and managing different types of employees. And you obviously have very different types of people because of your industry differences, but you can bounce ideas off of each other and be like, oh, well, I tried this and this seems to be really, really working for this kind of person.
Right.
And that would be cool. So we, Candy Thunder and I are in the same business. So it's like whenever we're talking about business issues, we're just bringing it home. And it's like, there is no escape. There is no escape. And sometimes we'll call a timeout and be like, okay, for the rest of the night, we're not talking about this because it's stressful and we need to just move on from it. But there's nothing that we would ever hide from each other about business things that need to be done. Obviously, since we run the business together, that wouldn't work anyway. But for him, you said something that I think really resonated. He was probably ashamed. And I think failure is one of the biggest motivators, or the fear of failure is one of the biggest motivators for a lot of men specifically, and people, period, but a lot of men specifically. Failing families, failing as a provider, failing in general is a hell of a motivator. And for him, he was willing to bankrupt his family in order to try to keep the business alive as like a last ditch effort whenever he could see that the ship was sinking.
Well, and it also sounds like it wasn't even just to keep the businesses alive. It sounded like there was components of it where they just weren't wanting to lay people off. And it's like, there's sometimes you've got to make those tough decisions as an owner, as an employer. And we've both been there. Yep. And, especially like 3 years ago, we were all put in that position where it's like, where do the cuts happen? Because we can't just shut the business down and we can't just bury ourselves financially. At some point, we have to survive so that if I had 20 families under my rooftop at work, counting on my business to provide them income, if it's 15 or 16, that's better than zero.
Right.
Or worse, 0 plus putting my family in a huge hole.
Right.
And which is what this guy's done. Because
he felt bad about letting people off, letting people go.
And it sounds like it's a perfect example of like, truly learn the business before you do it. Just because you went and got a degree in it doesn't mean you fully understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just recently purchased the last of our dealership. I've been an owner for a little over 3 years, but I've been at the dealership for over a decade. I've been running it for more than 10 years. Like I understand the business and how it operates and how it succeeds and how it fails. Same with you. I mean, you've been in this industry for as long as I've known you. Before you just went and started your own agency, or technically buying the one that you used to work for.
Right.
Same thing I did. You learned it and you knew that you had what it takes to make it work. And you had the skills and the drive and the talent and the ability to draw in the quality people that you have around you right now. And this could have been a situation where maybe they had a good business plan, but they never could staff it right because they're not good at bringing people in. But either way, like, No, not an asshole for wanting a divorce, and I'm not saying you're an asshole if you get a divorce, but
it's a huge breach of trust. I know. I realize
sure.
that. The tough part about this is that, is she really wanting a divorce because she feels like there was a massive breach of trust, or is she wanting a divorce because they're broke now?
Yeah.
And she knows that she can't trust him to not be broke in the future.
Well, I think you could rebuild both of those. You could rebuild the trust component. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort. And obviously you can rebuild the trust of, okay, he goes and gets a secure, steady job that you guys know you can count on income, and you can rebuild that savings. You're never going to be able to recoup fully what you lost. It's money. It's gone. And there's debt there, it sounds like now.
Right.
But you can come to an understanding that you're not going to go down that road again. You're very, very sorry that you went down that road and did not communicate with your partner. And if she can forgive him for it, then, there's hope there. But if she can't forgive him for what he did, obviously, and there's no telling how long ago this was, but it's going to take time to get over this. I can understand her point with using the term financial infidelity, because there was a lot of secrets there and a lot of things that he was keeping from her that impact their relationship, their family, their finances. And, she didn't find out till it was too late.
Yeah. Well, at this point, moving forward, if they were to try to make it work, he's not going to be trusted with money at all, period.
Right.
He's not going to be in their relationship. Maybe he was the money manager, not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely changes. You look at either giving up control of all the things that you abused to gain trust back.
Right.
And even that's going to be a really long road.
Sure.
The alternative
and a
is
burden on her.
Oh yeah. Huge. Because she doesn't want to have to learn that. She doesn't want to have to do it, but she has to,
sure.
because she feels like, she's with a man child who couldn't control his shit and just bankrupted his family instead of laying people off. And that sucks. On the flip side, for him, if he loses her, did they talk about having kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're like 7 and 4, I think.
Okay. So they've got kids. So if she does go through with divorcing him, he's obviously going to see his kids less. He's obviously losing his wife, and he's lost his business because it's going bankrupt at this point. How impossible would it be to come back from that? Just from a failure on top of failure on top
sure.
of failure stack.
It just depends on your character. It's definitely a hard reset moment. Yeah, late 30s, you can still come back from that. That's not
for sure
unsurmountable, but definitely it's a big setback. It's not the end of the world by any means, especially if it's truly going through bankruptcy and the process of it, and how that's going to work with their creditors and how it's going to impact whatever debt they do carry over. It's not unsurmountable, but it's not something that anybody would want to be hung with, especially as an adult with small children. They should be saving for college right now, not worrying about paying off this ding dong's debt.
The ding dong's debt. It sucks. That's for sure. So I think you hit it on the head with your first statement. She's not an asshole for wanting the divorce. Going through with it may be a different thing, but even that, I don't. It's understandable.
Sure,
if your spouse had done this to you and had bankrupt your family to try to keep a failing business alive, it would be really tough to recover from. I don't think anyone could feel any differently. And we talk a lot about, you can't be an asshole for feeling something. It's what you do with those feelings that could make you an asshole. In this case, you're not an asshole for feeling it, for wanting that divorce or going through with it. So long as this isn't just about money.
Right.
If this is just not wanting anything to do with him because he's broke now, that's the one part of this that could make OP the asshole here.
Right. If the attorney's giving the advice on the premise of the sooner she cuts bait, the less obligated she's going to be to whatever debts are with the business.
And this is just, he's tainted now.
And that could just be preliminary advice from one attorney that's just trying to get some attorney's fees to help somebody get divorced.
Yeah.
And not be there to help her with debt resolution when she's still hung with half of whatever debt he's got. And
That's true.
She doesn't have a job because she's a stay-at-home mom.
That's the tough part, though. I mean, if she does get a divorce, like being a stay-at-home mom now becomes really tough because you're not going to have any alimony payments here. There's no source of income. He's got to go start over brand new. Mm-hmm. There will be some child support and maybe some alimony at some point, but it would be both truly starting from scratch, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough no matter what. No matter what you do financially, it's going to be tough. So I guess that's the decision, is just recognize that it's going to be an uphill battle financially no matter what. Like, is it worth also ending your marriage over?
Yeah, this is just one of those money situations that it always makes me picture somebody that's like dug a hole and they've dug it so deep that now as they dig every shovel scoop, they're just throwing on top of themselves because
there's nowhere to go. They
can't even get it out of the hole anymore.
There's nowhere to go with it. Good gravy. All right, let's dive into our last. Is it our last one here?
No, we have 2 more.
4, 5. Oh, how you know more about the stories we have than I do. Okay,
I listened to your wife.
Third story here. Am I the asshole for breaking up with my girlfriend for being peer pressured? Well, that's weird. My ex-girlfriend, 27 female, and I, 29 male, not the ages I was expecting, were together for a year. I broke up with her last week. So about 5 months ago, she came to my apartment after a night out with her friends. She confessed that she made out with a guy because her friends were pressuring her to have fun and not be so uptight.
This is the spicy one.
She apologized and said she really didn't want to, but she didn't want to look bad to them. I was really pissed at her lack of a backbone, but I decided to let it go because she told me and apologized. We also agreed that she wouldn't go out drinking with them because they kept pressuring her to do things she doesn't want to do. Last week, she went out with those girls. She didn't tell me she was going. She went to a small town in our country to stay in a cabin for the day. She sent me a message telling me she was there and that she'd be back later that night. I was kind of mad already because who just disappears and tells their partner after? And the friends she was with made me feel a whole lot worse about the situation. I told her to come see me when she was back. She came to my place the next day and I asked her what happened. She said nothing bad happened. She was just taking a mental health day with her friends. I told her to just tell me if anything happened because I don't believe her. After 3 days of denying that anything happened, she confessed that she was there with one of the girls and the girl's husband. Apparently, her friend had been asking her to have a threesome with her and her husband. She said her friend kept begging over text for several weeks and she just caved because she felt pressured. She showed me the text. But she also said they didn't go all the way on the trip and she didn't have sex with either of them. I told her the relationship was over and that she seriously needs to go to therapy and address why she surrounds herself with people who pressure her to do things she doesn't want to do, and also why she feels like she can't say no to them at her own expense. She cried and said I'm blaming her for something she didn't have a say in. I told her going to that cabin was her choice. Being friends with them was her choice. And unless they held a gun to her head to do whatever she did in that cabin, that was her choice too. Her brother left me a message saying I'm being too harsh and should be helping her resolve her issues instead of kicking her to the curb. I don't get why they think I should allow her to cheat on me whenever just because she doesn't have the balls to say no to her friends. Am I the asshole?
NTA. We don't even need to have this discussion.
Boom. Boom. Just get it right there.
This is a person that deliberately stays with these type of friends because they can try to turn them into the scapegoat. This is the kind of person that wants to do these things. And if they weren't in a relationship, they'd be doing it probably all the time. And they let it seem like this friend group is pressuring them into it. And the friend group probably is to a bit because they're probably like, we don't really like your boyfriend anyway. And this is what you really want to do. So just do it. Do it and tell him about it. How about that? And then the fact that he stayed with her after the first one, that's it. Free pass.
They were like, all right, we got to go harder.
Yeah.
We got to do something crazier.
They were just peeking in the door. Now they're just kicking it open.
I don't understand how you could stay with someone like this. I mean, someone literally just can't say no.
It doesn't sound like the kind of person that just has bad friends. It sounds like the kind of person that chooses to keep these bad friends so you can blame the bad friends for your bad choices.
That's an interesting take. Have you encountered someone like that before?
I've dated this person.
Okay. I was like, you seem to have a very firm grasp on like who this person could be.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. It's the same thing. I mean, we've been around these kind of people. Yeah, exactly.
And that's always the story.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So I would look at this on face value, and not having encountered that person, I don't think in real life, would have been like, oh, they just usually have like a problem saying no. And some people are just like that. Like maybe working with them on a solution, if you really love this person, would be the play. They're just dating though. Thank goodness they're just dating. Right. They wasn't married to this person, because she would have said yes.
She can't say no.
Oh, come on.
Storm coming in hot.
But it'd be so impossible to trust someone like that, because their word means jack shit.
Right. Yeah.
I think you could be onto something. Well, you are onto something here with this being an act, though, and just letting the friends drive the boat and always having them to fall back on for an excuse.
Well, and it's what we've talked about before, and you say it plenty of times on here. Like, you're not going to get changed, you don't have actual remorse without changed behavior. Like, if the action is repeating itself, you're not really sorry. You're sorry you got caught.
Right.
And you're not sorry. You're not genuinely making changes after the first screw up, she should have just worked on enhancing that relationship and blowing off those friends altogether.
Right.
The fact that she didn't do either of those things just goes to show that this is what she wants. It's probably why she's single in her late 20s, but
pain creates change. Right? So she never experienced enough.
There was no pain. He forgave her. He probably made her feel bad about it for a week and then moved on. If even that long.
Oh man. And this is a thing, apparently. Like, I'm sorry if you're dealing with someone who pulls this kind of shit. Just know that it's a strong possibility that it's an act.
Yes. She's a 1. He's an NTA.
Girlfriend. So the can't say no girlfriend is an ascon 1.
Yes.
And he's NTA. There we go. I'm following your lead on that one. I don't know.
That was an easy one to dissect for me.
He's on it. All right, we'll bounce to the next one. Story 4. Am I the asshole for expecting my sister-in-law to let my daughter use her car after she just got into an accident? My daughter, 22, just got into a car wreck 5 days ago. She was at fault. She sideswiped someone in her blind spot. It completely bent her frame and her car is beyond repair. The only dealership that will approve her for a vehicle won't have her vehicle available for 2 weeks. It's a buy here, pay here. Now my brother and his wife are buying a part of my land, 2 acres. God, words are hard. My brother makes monthly payments on it while his wife stays home all day. She claims it's because the pregnancy is destroying her legs and it hurts to walk. Since he has been out of work, I knocked $300 off the monthly cost to help him out. His wife doesn't ever go anywhere, so her vehicle just sits in the driveway. My daughter obviously needs a car, so I talked to my brother 3 days ago and told him that for the next 2 weeks, they should consider allowing my daughter to use the vehicle because I don't have time to take her to work, and Uber would be costing easily $200 a day due to the distance. My brother said, that's probably not going to happen. And I said, well, make it happen. After all, I'm knocking money off of their monthly rent, so it's the least they can do. I called him this morning and asked him why he hasn't gotten back to me, and he says, my wife isn't comfortable with your daughter using her vehicle after just crashing her own, and gave some excuse of the car is the only thing she really has, so it's a big ask. I guess because his wife has been selling off stuff to make bills since he's out of work. I told him he needs to figure it out or the payments will go back up because I will need to help my daughter get a vehicle. He says I'm being an asshole because I'm taking my daughter's negligence out on them. So we don't know if OP is a male or female here, do we?
No, and this is a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it is. So, okay, so OP's daughter, who's 22, got in a wreck 5 days ago. OP is allowing their brother and his wife, they're buying part of their land. His brother, or OP's brother, is making monthly payments on it. Wife is to stay at home. stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home. Yeah. She's
pregnant, so she's a mom.
Yes, stay-at-home mom. She claims it's because the pregnancy is destroying her legs and it hurts to walk. Makes me think this is a dude. OP. Or, I mean, it could be a woman because a lot of women, view women making comments about pregnancy being tough as a sign of weakness or whatever. But says his wife doesn't ever go anywhere, so her vehicle just sits in the driveway. I don't know, just automatically assuming that you get to commandeer a vehicle or you're going to financially punish someone is an asshole move.
It's a very entitled perspective. Like, this arrangement that you've made with your brother and sister-in-law is completely separate from the situation that your daughter's created.
Yes.
By having an accident. I mean, you could almost be like, hey, okay, this is the expense we're having to drive her around, pay for Ubers, things like that. How about I pay you X to be able to drive that car for a couple of weeks that's normally just sitting around, and that helps them out financially, Everybody kind of wins, but they have the expectation of just getting something for free. It's clear that side of the family is already struggling anyway.
Yeah. We're going to take the one thing that you have.
Right.
Or we're going to charge you more money for the thing that we're letting you buy from us.
Because on the other side of it, if something happens with the pregnant sister-in-law and she needs immediate transportation to get to the doctor or the hospital, she's not going to have it available. So, I mean, I see both sides of it, but having just that entitled, well, I've been helping you out, you need to just make this happen. That's definitely an asshole.
Yeah, it's the approach. I think it's the approach that makes them the asshole. You could have made this an ask and been like, hey, you could have found a way to do this in a diplomatic way,
right?
And not come across as an asshole that's like, I'm gonna need your car.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because then what happens if she wrecks that one too?
Everybody's screwed,
right? And I guarantee you, their insurance isn't going to cover it if she wrecks it, because she would need to be put on the policy.
She'd have to be a listed driver. Okay, so if there were, you mentioned that these are two separate arrangements, and if they have some kind of documentation or purchase agreement for the land that they're buying, that would be like legally a separate agreement.
Sure.
That OP here, you couldn't just jack up because they won't do you this favor
right.
or, bend to your demands here. And that they're already struggling. You've got your brother's out of work. His wife is pregnant. Like they're struggle busting right now. And your solution is to make that worse because your daughter got into an accident. That was her fault. Not the play, bro. So
not at all.
Where does OP end on the scale here?
I'm at least a 2.
Definitely shouldn't have done it. Is it a terrible human thing to do?
I wouldn't say terrible. No, we're not terrible human yet, but definitely shouldn't have done it. I mean, the whole thing could have been handled way better.
Yeah.
Should have been handled way better. Like there should have been able to come to a resolution, some sort of compromise, because truly even if they'd added her on their insurance as an additional driver at 22 and just had an accident, their rate's going to go up.
Right.
While she's on there as a driver.
Right.
So whether it's 2 weeks or a month or whatever, that's an added expense for them. They're obviously already struggling. So
a lot of times insurance will cover like the rental car. Whether it's your fault in an accident or not, it doesn't have any bearing on the insurance's willingness to provide that. If it's a part of the policy, it's part of the policy.
Right.
So that would have been a good thing to have. Clearly that wasn't part of their solution package at that time. Right. But it's the ask, man. It's just the way this was approached in like you said, a very entitled way. That's just like I'm going to need you to give that to me. Yeah. You don't keep score when you're helping people out. It's not how it works. Nope. It's not just hey buddy, here's the pickle I'm in, and here's an idea that might be a solution for both of us. I'm going to take your shit. Yep. Yeah. All right. Ascon 2. Ascon 2 OP, and Candy Thunder again says, wow, what a classy bitch. Gotta go through it a little bit slower like that. Wait a second. That was the end of the
That was
night.
it. That's all.
Yeah. Oh, did we get through all of them?
All 4, yeah.
Okay. I thought we had a 5 on there.
No, I can't.
Well, shit. I was ripping through them here quick, thinking we had
no,
another
those
one
last,
to go.
Well, I mean, number 3 was easy. Let's be honest.
We need to like start a timer during the edit to figure out from the end of my last word of the story till you say NTA, like how many milliseconds that was.
It was not long.
Rapid fire.
That would be like we playing horse in here, but instead of using like an NBA basketball goal, we have one of those like little Larry Bird, Michael Jordan cardboard things with the foam ball that I can just slam dunk on.
Yes. Dunk, 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 dunk.
You got this one.
Okay, so we got through our stories really quick. We probably spent more time on our tangents than we did our actual stories here. So sorry about that, folks. But it was pretty easy determinations overall here. A couple of them were more complicated, but everything we talk about is complicated, basically.
That's true. Mainly because we complicate it even more than it already was.
You're absolutely right. Everything I do is 10 times harder than it should be. And it's my fault.
It's because you're trying to make it harder.
Trying to make it better, damn it.
I've watched this podcast be recorded live and yeah.
Trying to make it way harder than it needs to be. It's entertaining that way, man.
Breaking stuff and yelling at things that aren't even animate objects.
That's good entertainment right there, man. You're like, the camera wasn't even rolling. It's still good entertainment.
I keep telling you need to sell a link to camera 2.
We're storing all the camera 2 footage just for someday. Well, we are going to be rolling out YouTube membership tiers in July. We don't know what they are yet.
Can't wait to get that bill.
Yeah. we are rolling that out, and maybe camera 2 footage will be included in there at some tier.
Are you ever going to start doing a promo, like if people get like the Dusty Thunder tattoo on them, that you'll just give them a free membership for life?
Here's the problem.
I can't wait to hear this.
The social giants want their cut.
Sure.
So I could say like, yeah, you can get a free membership for life, but YouTube and TikTok are still like, hey.
Mm-hmm. But I mean,
pay up.
You'd pay up if someone permanently put that on themselves.
Do it like a select number of people. Like the first 5 people send us pictures and video verification that you got Dusty Thunder tattooed on your body. It's got to be permanent.
Yeah, it can't be henna. None of the henna.
It's got to be
stuff.
permanent, and it's got to be in a visible spot. It can't be like a butt cheek tattoo.
Like a forehead tattoo.
Yes.
Go straight Mike Tyson, just right down.
A face tattoo, Dusty Thunder logo. I am all for, man. We would figure something out. If somebody actually did that, we would definitely gift them something. I don't know what it would be, but
I've been curious, like when you're going to go like Jay Leno, like how he had the like little color thing up here in his hair.
Yeah.
And you do like a thunderbolt coming off the bottom of your mouth.
You know what? There was a split second whenever we first started recording content and we did something, but it looked like my gray was in like a lightning bolt fashion. And I was like, no way. And then I went and looked in the mirror and I'm like, nah, it was just the angle or some shit. It was
the light.
No, I'm just naturally getting like the dark. I have the dark Fu Manchu is going to be all that's left dark, and everything else will be just like stark white here.
And then we're just going to take mascara and do a little lightning bolt.
I'm down.
I'll let your wife do that.
Like it's all natural.
I'm not doing
She already wants to dye my beard. She wants to,
How
she wants
rude.
it to be a little bit darker. And I'm like, no, I'm not. No, can't start
You look
that.
distinguished.
Thank you. Tell her that.
I mean, I have pictures of this man without a beard. And nobody wants to see that.
Nope.
Nobody.
Probably, especially with the context of.
When it was like 12:30 at Kitchen Pass.
Yes.
Not 12:30 lunch.
Nope. The context of what was happening around those images, nobody wants to see either. Let's just put it this way: we've got stories, and not this kind of stories.
We're not sharing.
Yep.
No,
not the kind of stories you'll ever hear.
Nope.
Top secrets kind of stories.
I'll tell my wife, but that's it.
It stays there. HIPAA prevents us from being able to discuss them further. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us through this podcast. Josh, thank you so much for finally coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Love you, brother.
Love you too.
And we'll definitely bring Josh back at some point here. We'd love to have you as a regular in the lineup.
I will try to have full voice capacity next time. All the times for me to get like one of those fun summer colds.
Yeah. Well, all the other times you're going to lose your voice are from Chiefs games, though. So
true. We can't do one after Chiefs game.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be tough.
That's me screaming for half of a 3.5 hour event.
That is Tony's Barking Candy Thunder today. They're like, it was a great weekend. It was a good time.
I'm surprised they're not in like full body casts. They looked pretty beat from the video the other night.
Thanks again for hanging out with us. We had a really good time going over these stories with Josh Schmutz. I'm still relearning how to say the last name there. Look for him in chat on the live streams. He's always there. You can give him a hard time there.
Yeah, you can troll me.
Yeah, let's troll him. Or by leaving a comment on this episode. Thank you so much again. We're going to be doing the next podcast. We're actually filming soon with Tony Stank or Tony Spark.
Tony Dark right now. He's been at the lake for a week.
Yes, he is Tony Dark for sure. After the 4th of July on the lake and then the T-Swift. Yeah, he is Tony Dark for sure. So that's coming up. We'll have another episode of Thunder and Spark at some point here in the next couple of weeks. And also we finally got our Try Treats box, the replacement box in, because the first time we did it, it was when the tech gremlins ruined all of our content. And by tech gremlins, I mean me. So we're redoing an unboxing of a Try Treats box that we can't wait to show you too. So thanks so much for hanging out with us. We will see you next time.